Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Synergized. This is where we talk about the values and the experiences our guests have had when it comes to leadership. Today, I'm so pleased to bring back a guest that you probably met a few months back, Dr. Gregory Roach. And yes, it's Dr. Gregory Roach now, school superintendent for Delville Community Schools, located near the central part of the state of Indiana, the great state of Indiana, both of us being Hoosiers. Since we last had Dr. Roach, he's completed a doctorate program and been approved as an EDD. We're going to talk to Dr. Roach today and understand a bit more about what led him to pursue a doctorate, being a lifelong educator. I'm sure that played into it. But we're also going to talk about the area of his study and the value of research as it exists, not only in the educational world, but in our daily lives. Dr. Roach, thank you for agreeing to take time out again, and welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And congratulations, by the way, on your successful defense with the EDD. It had to be very exciting for you.
Oh, extremely exciting. I'm still getting used to being called doctor, but it's a lot of fun.
We have to be honest, right? You're the second doctor within the household.
I am not the first. My wife Heather earned her doctorate a few years ago, and her Facebook post when I got the final notification that I'd completed all requirements, part of it said that I couldn't stand to be called Dr. and Mr. Roach. So I had to make sure we changed that. But I won't say that wasn't part of it, extremely small part of it, but just the competitive nature between my wife and me, that was part of it for sure.
I like that. Successful leadership is nothing if you can't have some fun in all angles of it, right?
Absolutely. And I think you pointed out to me one of the times at the end of my defense that it is alphabetical order. So it's Dr. Greg and Dr. Heather Roach. So I have the top billing there just because my name starts with a G. But
it's easy for me
she
to
could go by her middle name of Ann. She could go by her middle name of Ann, and then she might jump me.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to talk over you, but it's easy for me to point that out when I may never see your wife again, right? I met her at the graduation piece, so it's easy for me to boldly stay miles away.
Exactly.
And make that statement. I love that. Well, I'm happy for both of you. And as we think about pursuit of educational doctorates, maybe even doctorates as a whole in our world today, but in particular, we're going to talk about the educational doctorate, Dr. Roach. Going back maybe 20, 23, 25 years ago, prior schools had pay schedules that basically promoted educators to obtain a master's after you have your bachelor's and you have a chance to earn more money. Add hours to your master's, a chance to earn more money. A doctorate degree, a chance to earn higher salary. And then things changed with that for a window of time. And probably, I guess, I don't know your thoughts, but it demotivated educators from pursuing their higher degrees.
Oh, there's no question. You go back 35 or 40 years, if you got that master's within 5 years, you had a lifetime license. And then the state, and I completely support this, the state wanted to promote lifelong learning and continue to improve ourselves as teachers, as educators, and went to a 5-year, and you could professionalize for a 10-year renewal process, where there are a lot of different ways to get to that renewal, but you had to do some kind of continuing education, whether it be through professional development at your school or university courses. And I don't think that's bad at all. I think that's a good thing. So there was that incentive to get that master's within 5 years, have a lifetime license. Then, like you said, there were escalations on the pay scales. And then now you can have your bachelor's degree, teach your whole career. Here at Delville Schools, we offer professional development throughout the year. So you wouldn't have to take any university courses or anything outside of what we do as professional development to get those professional growth points to renew your license. So the focus on master's degrees and doctorates has certainly, it's been a demotivating thing to pursue those degrees. I think that's starting to swing back around even with our teachers. It seems we have several that are in master's programs now, and the universities have done a good job of tailoring to teacher needs with a lot of virtual Saturday class, full day classes and things like that. It's starting to swing back around. But at the administration side, obviously, if you start your pursuit of your principal's license, you're going to have to get a master's. And then what you do from that is up to you. If you want to move up to the administration office level, an EDS at least is certainly preferred. And a lot of school corporations, a doctorate. You have to have that doctor in front of your name as a part of the requirements for applying for those jobs. So my hope is it's swinging back around. because there's value in those courses.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for some of the chronological aspects. And I concur. When things started to shift in moving, and as you stated, around the roughly the year 2000, maybe a bit earlier, maybe a bit later here in the state of Indiana, I don't think the intent was to demotivate educators from continuing growth. But for whatever reason, many of the educators, I know when I was a building principal, a school superintendent, many educators, especially 15 years, 20 years out in their career, maybe in that early 40-year age range, just felt like that they were past that point of wanting to go earn those. And it was a learning piece for me, given the focus and the promotion of lifelong learning. But I get it. Life happens, and there's so much activity for parents in today's world, especially educators who serve as parents more often, not only for their own children, but many others with their students they have in the classroom today. So there's a lot of challenges when it comes to pursuing those educational degrees, especially at the higher level.
Yeah, I'd agree with that completely. And you always consider your return on investment, and not the return. Some of the return is continue to improve yourself as an educator and as a person. But when you're spending the time away from your family and you're spending the money and you're not seeing a return financially on that, it gives you pause, I think, to decide whether that's something you're driven to do, because it's not going to be financially motivated in most cases now.
How much would you say that move away from where the pursuit of the master's and beyond degrees came from a shift from that intrinsic motivation aspect to thinking back the instructors I had in the 1960s, 1970s, even the 1980s? I feel, and maybe it's just me remembering certain parts, right? We tend to remember the really positive things or the impactful things in life and lose track of the others, right? We don't. It's like watching a rerun of a sitcom we like. There's just some episodes I don't care to see again, but the ones I really like, I look for and watch over and over. How much do you think a shift in intrinsic motivation, if any, has played in this process?
I think it certainly has played a piece of it, probably a significant piece, where there may not be that motivation. The other side of that is, I think a lot of times in Indiana and across the country, but I hear it locally, teachers feel like they're in some ways under attack, asked to do more and more as support on a family type level. But then you also feel like all the requirements, they just keep stacking requirements on teachers at a state legislation level. And that's certainly been something I've heard as an assistant superintendent, now superintendent. So just the motivation to go above and beyond in that regard, it makes it difficult for them, I think.
And I hear what you're saying. And Dr. Roach, this is a Kevin view and opinion, having been a building principal, a classroom teacher, and a school district superintendent. Strictly an opinion, not meant to be political, but strictly my experience. Those requirements tend to pull us away from the heart of where the focus needs to be. And as I sit back and reflect, now that I'm no longer in the public education sector directly, I tend to believe we went too far with this whole data-driven decision-making focus. There's too much accumulation of data. As a school superintendent, for example, with the state requirements, it seems like I was giving 3 or 4 different sets of the very same data to different departments of the state Department of Education that had me asking, can't we link up and just submit it once? And then where's that data ever utilized at? And I think that becomes demotivating to things like, why should I go pursue and invest for additional degrees when I'm asked to do these tactical things that pull me away from serving the children?
I completely agree. And the Department of Education has been tasked with trying to reduce those redundant reports and things like that, and they're making progress. But yeah, often, especially as the business manager side of it, I'll do financial reports for Gateway, so for State Board of Accounts, and then for the Department of Education. And they're not all exactly the same. So I'm doing the same work 3 different times, 3 different ways, which makes it difficult. And the same is true with meeting educational standards in that. It seems like the more requirements, especially teachers, that we put on teachers, it's more, the more we're asking them to do that is not inside the classroom, not inside the instructional piece of what they're supposed to be doing. And I know that's where most of our teachers, they just want to go teach our students.
Yeah.
And they love our students and they want to do a great job. but we're asking them to do all this extra stuff that they don't see why that's necessary.
And as a school superintendent, that's exactly where you want them to have 100% of their time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to relieve them of everything I can. And we try to do that where we can. If we can become more efficient in certain aspects of the non-instructional issues or items, we certainly try to do that. We try to help them out. But when I taught 32 years ago, it's a lot different what a teacher has to do, requirements outside the classroom compared to what I had way back in the old days.
Way back in the old days, yeah. I love that. Isn't it amazing how the old days continuously move down the pendulum, so to speak, as time passes in each of our
I don't
lives?
like what the old days are now.
I hear you. I'm not sure I was made for that, right?
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
it. One more question, then I want to jump into your personal experience and your motivation for getting your doctorate. Interested on your view on this, Dr. Roach. It appears to me, and through my experiences again, having worked with a number of students such as yourself who've pursued a doctorate, pursued a master's, that there's greater respect and identification is not the right word, recognition of the value of life experience more so today, which I think is a great positive. Said another way, classroom teachers today with the life experience they're gaining are gaining that experience that apply directly to a higher level degree.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. There's a direct correlation to those life experiences in the higher degrees. I completely agree with that.
Shifting our focus back to you, which I know you love it when the limelight or the spotlight's on you. I know how much you enjoy that, and I'm sure Heather's getting a big laugh out of watching this now as you squirm on that piece, but tongue in cheek when I say that, just joking in that regard. Talk a little bit about Greg Roach. What motivated Greg Roach to pursue the doctorate? We heard about the competition maybe with your wife, but I sense there's more to that internally for Greg Roach.
I'll go back just briefly. When I became a high school athletic director, I was 24 years old. And that was, if you'd asked me coming out of college, that was my career ending goal. So, I was already to the point where I figured I'd teach, I'd coach for several years and athletic directing. I thought I'd be good at it. So that was kind of the end of the road for me as far as what I dreamed of growing up. And I became an athletic director at such a young age. Then I got involved with the administration team and just made the progress from assistant principal to assistant superintendent to superintendent. Never 30 years ago, never thought that would be my path. Always have loved learning new things. I think every interview I ever had, that's one of the things I mentioned. I might not know everything about the job, but I love learning about the job. And then that just translated into, I went from Whitco High School to Mount Vernon High School as the athletic director, was required to get my principal's license. Was supposed to have it before it was a requirement to apply for the job, but they interviewed me and they said, we need you to get your license. So I started working on that. I'd taken one administration class, the intro to school administration, and it was okay, but I was so busy as an athletic director that I didn't really soak it up maybe, but then started taking the classes to get my principal's license, get my master's degree, and just looked forward. Not that it was always fun work, but looked forward to learning and the new experiences and learning about school law, school finance, curriculum, and just started building from there. And so then I became the principal at Mount Vernon, had an interest in moving up to the administration office level, wanted the superintendent's license, had that opportunity if it presented itself. And so I got an EDS and passed the superintendent's exam. I actually did those in the backward order, passed the superintendent's exam before I'd ever taken an EDS level class. But got to that point, got my superintendent's license. I got the job here at Daleville. That's all I needed. But as I had grown through the years and taken classes, it was a career and personal goal to get a doctorate degree. And I didn't think, you talk about return on investment. I was looking at all my options and how many classes I was going to have to take. And I thought, I can't do it. I don't have time to write a dissertation. But then I really got fired up about it. Probably last April, coming back from spring break, and really thought that's what I want to do. That I want to do it for my personal satisfaction and sense of accomplishment. The other side of it was career goal in retirement from education as a superintendent. as we transition. I'm not going to stop working. A doctorate degree gives me opportunities maybe to teach at the college level. I think I can be helpful with leadership, educational leadership classes and things like that. And even I enjoyed writing the dissertation. Anytime I could be involved in that, I think I would enjoy. So that was the bonus on the end of it, is it gives me an option in retirement that I can still stay involved in education.
Thank you for opening the door to the next question, really, Dr. Roach. And for those viewers and listeners that are returning, that have watched Leadership Synergized prior to this episode, you just linked your doctoral work to leadership a little bit. The lifelong learning, whether it's through a master's program, a doctorate program, or other type of certification programs, just as examples, truly align well with furthering our growth and adding more tools to the leadership box.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just a process for me that I don't know that I'll ever stop. Even if I'm not working anywhere and I'm 80 years old, I'll still be trying to learn something. I don't know what that would be, but it's always exciting for me to continue to learn and gain new skills and take maybe weaknesses or areas that I need to address and convert those to strengths. That's a competitive challenge on a personal level for me. But yeah, and then the most rewarding thing is when I can, like here with my administration team at Daleville, when I can take something I've learned and help them grow. You talked about, I like to be in the limelight. And if they've watched the first podcast I was on, they know that's absolutely not true. But I like to be there working behind the scenes and the servant leadership and supporting them. And it's really satisfying when it's something I've learned myself recently that I can pass on to somebody else. I don't know, as far as working with adults at my level with my team, that there's anything more satisfying than that for me personally.
Sure there is, and having got to know you the past 2 years in that regard. And thank you again for spending time with us, Dr. Roach. We're going to come back with the second episode, and we're going to build more on maybe what Dr. Roach identified through his experience working to attain his doctorate in education, his ED, in regards to the strengths that stood out, the challenges he faced, and weaknesses he identified. And then we're going to dive into the actual research he did and what he found. And I hope that you can see, as I have, as Dr. Roach's last statements really wrap up this episode, the work and the focus and what led him through self-motivation, intrinsic motivation, links directly to the still leadership model you've heard me and our guests talk about. Pursuing his doctorate, he's serving in the S. He's serving himself so he can bring greater value to others, which is transforming not only his life, his future, and building a life of significance for others through the influence and the love that he has to serve from behind as a follower. And the best leaders are the best followers in any aspect, in any organization. And that leads to best of best leadership. Dr. Roach, thank you for this segment. I look forward to the next segment.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining Leadership Synergized. I hope you found a nugget, one piece that you can put in your leadership toolbox and understand that to be effective and have lifelong success as a leader, it's all about still. We'll be back with Dr. Roach next week. Thank you so much. God bless. I appreciate you.